Okay, I'd just like to say welcome back after lunch, and also welcome to everyone who's joining us from Zoom. So now we have our second keynote, and I'm very happy to introduce Stockholm Trio collaboration with also a representative from Tokyo University. So we will learn more about transformative sustainable learning, and you will introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. This presentation is giving some insight in actually an outcome from the Stockholm Trio University of Tokyo collaboration. We got to know a bit more about this partnership in the morning, and here you will get to see some more about that. And we are Matti Nikkola and Lena Ström from Karolinska Institutet, Shono Chang Rundgren and Ulf Fredriksson from Stockholm University, and Marie Magnell and myself, Anders Rosén from KTH. Transformative Sustainability Learning in Professions-Oriented Higher Education. That's a long title. If we start with professions-oriented, we represent 3 different professions, engineering, medical and education, and teacher education. And we have seen interesting opportunities to compare and learn between these different professions-oriented education. And then what about transformative and transformation? One way of picturing the situation that we are in today is by looking at the global fossil fuel consumption, as you see in this picture. As you know, it's been growing and growing, and it's continuing to grow. Interesting with this picture is that we have here placed our universities in the beginning of this time axis. We have Stockholm University, founded 1878, KTH 1798, and then KI in 1810, same year, I think, as the Humboldt University. And we can consider here, is there some kind of correlation between the development of this curve and the initiation of our institutions, which might be calling for some reconsideration and rethinking? For example, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, maybe the largest international scientific collaboration ever. They are emphasizing that there is a need for transformative change of all aspects of society. And with transformation, they mean a change in the fundamental attributes of a system, including changes in values, norms, belief systems, culture, and conceptions of progress and well-being. If we look at this with transformation from a learning perspective, we can look at different levels of learning according to Stephen Sterling. On top, we have our actions. That's how we are interacting with each other and the world. Below that, we have our ideas, theories, we can say our knowledge. And below that, on the deeper levels, we have norms, assumptions, values, paradigms, etc. Higher education, not least engineering education, is to a quite large extent content-driven and knowledge-oriented. We learn, we transfer existing knowledge to our students. UNESCO and many researchers, they are calling for a shift towards an action-oriented, transformative pedagogy. For example, including experiential learning, such as problem-based learning and challenge-driven learning. And also, here it comes, transformative sustainability learning that empowers students to question and change the ways they see and think about the world in order to deepen their understanding of it and to take action for change. So transformative sustainability learning addresses these deeper levels of learning. So that was a quick introduction. But Ulf, how did all this start? How did we come together?
Yes, well, we have had a cooperation with the University of Tokyo from the department where I work, the Department of Education, since 2013. We have had a number of seminars together with students and PhD students from Tokyo, and education sustainable development has been one of the key issues in many of these seminars. Then our cooperation at our department between our department and similar department in Tokyo have become part of the bigger cooperation between Stockholm Trio and University of Tokyo. And there has also been a number of different seminars, workshops, etc. And also in many of these workshops there have been the issue of education for sustainable development has been one of the key issues. So if you click to get the new slide. In the seminar in 2020, or the workshop in 2020, then we had one of the sub-workshops was about education for sustainable development. This was, of course, at that time online. At the seminar or workshop, there came up a number of ideas, issues, and I, as the coordinator of that workshop, promised to try to follow up the different ideas that came up. And I had some consultations, both with colleagues at my department as well as with colleagues at Tokyo University. And then we managed to gather a group of people from the, KTH, Karolinska and Stockholm University. And we met then in December 2020. And we have kept on meeting on Zoom since then at several occasions. I think the first time we actually met live was sometime this autumn. So we have had a long history of discussions, thinking about different type of possibilities, how we could then have a joint cooperation around education for sustainable development. And you see the names of the people who have been involved in these activities. So if we get to the next slide. Education is obviously a key element in whatever part of sustainable development we talk about them. But it may be important to realize that there may be some professions that play a more crucial role in this field. And obviously engineers, medical doctors and teachers may be key professions in order to realize education and sustainable development. So I mean that was the kind of idea that we came up with in the discussions. And then we realized also that, of course, all these three academic professional education exist in the different universities. We have KTH, we have engineers, University of Tokyo also have education engineers, medical doctors, Karolinska and University of Tokyo, and teachers, Stockholm University and University of Tokyo. And of course, that gave a possibility for us to look into this, to see what can we learn from each other, how can we organize a project where we take both possibility to compare Stockholm and Tokyo, but also, of course, to compare these three academic professional-oriented educations. So that was the starting point for the whole project.
Yes. I'm going to say a few words about the background of what things happened before we met. In 2019, Karolinska Institute took initiative to a conference, a two-day meeting to discuss the topic of universities for the future. Rethinking higher education, initiated by our then new president, Ole Petter Ottersen, and 500 students, teachers, faculty, education leaders worked together. We had workshops, everything was documented. It's kind of a bottoms-up approach. What should be future universities be like? And very much in the context of sustainable development goals, in both education, in research, and how we function as part of a society. This was 2019. This was supposed to be a series of conferences. This was a starting point. There was supposed to be a meeting in 2020, a follow-up, some more rethinking, but then COVID happened. And we had to rethink some things really fast. And, but we started to analyze these results, and which is in the form of a manuscript now. Maria Niemi, Mia von Knorring from KEA have done much of the work for this paper. And coming from this meeting, we found that yes, there's a consensus among students and faculty that we do need to rethink the role of universities in this context of sustainable development. And this should be done as both students and faculty as active actors as drivers for a change, for a more sustainable world. Also, a clear focus on more collaboration, bridging across borders, and also for universities and higher education institutes in general to take even a more active role in society, in building up a society through transformational processes. Now Karolinska Institute, that we have been around for 2010, first founded as a university for training army surgeons. Our vision is not only that nowadays. Our vision is to advance knowledge about life through research and education and strive towards better health for all. Health is seen nowadays as a planetary thing. We talk about planetary health. And yes, what happened 2020 with the epidemic, we have realized it's a very small planet. We are extremely interconnected. And also health is a dynamic target. Population structures change, new diseases emerge, and our health education programs are continuously developed both for content and pedagogy. And we think a lot about the roles healthcare professionals such as medical doctors take in the society. Traditionally, people have seen medical doctors as somebody who deals with patients who have in need of healthcare. But since decades, even a long time backwards, we see that health is something that healthcare professionals, together with other parts of the society, build into the society. You build a healthier society, and that should be part of the educational programs. And that's why we are here. We talk to the teacher programs at Stockholm University and wonder what can we learn from the teacher programs. What do they do well? And what can we give them? And being here at KTH, we think engineers are good at building things. And we think, what can we learn from each other to build even better health on a planetary scale?
Yeah, that building we are also interested in at KTH, and these opportunities for mutual learning. At KTH, we have had this kind of approach to sustainability in education, starting with teachers and students and program directors, pioneers, making it happen. But then since some 10, 15 years, we have also had top-down support on that through policies, objectives, tools, support, evaluations. For example, we have had dedicated vice rectors, both for sustainability and equality, and also dedicated offices. And we have the Department of Learning providing teacher training and supporting development through research. And this has been a fruitful top-down, bottom-up interaction. And in 2020, we have sustainability objectives every 5-year period. And in 2020, we made a thorough evaluation about the status of sustainability in all programs. We have close to 100 programs at KTH. And here we could see that there had been significant progress. Sustainability is to some extent considered in all 3-year programs, and in the first 3 years of all 5-year programs, and in some master and PhD programs. However, to a very different degree. We could here also observe that the main focus is on environmental sustainability, whereas social, economic, ethical, and other aspects of sustainability are much more limited or lacking. We could also see that the main focus is on knowledge about sustainability, whereas students are provided limited opportunities to develop skills to actually do sustainability and attitudes and key competencies for sustainability. And we could also see a need for a better supporting students' progression, that sustainability is not just something that appears in one course and then it's not considered further ahead in the program. Mapping KTH's sustainability status based on this evaluation in a qualitative manner with Stephen Sterling's and Annette Kolmos' orders of change framework, we get about this picture that we have still some master programs and PhD programs where it's difficult to see any traces of sustainability. Most programs can be characterized as an add-on. There is one course or a couple of courses where the students are provided opportunities to actually work with sustainability. Some programs, they are working more thoroughly with contextualizing sustainability within the discipline, within the program, within the professional sector. And then there is a handful of really progressive master programs who have reached all the way to actually providing the students opportunities to rethink and reconsider things and work for change. But there is some barrier to change. Marie, you have been studying that in your research.
Yes, I have. So now we will sort of make a little change here, shift here, and talk a little bit about organizational culture and how to achieve change. And there are several studies, particular on engineering education, that show that there's a slow, even a non-existent response to lots of change initiatives that are taken. And possibly this could be because they sort of ignore what is called deep-rooted cultural norms that complicate educational transformation. So we're not really thinking about culture, organizational culture. And in many other studies, the topic of organizational culture is highlighted in many cases, and changing the culture is a rather common solution to achieve this kind of change that has been suggested. And as Anders said, I've done studies on this. So an example is that you can look into organizational culture and study it on macro level, meso level, and micro level. In my study, I focused on the meso level, and that can be found, for example, if you look into and investigate a group of faculty members that work together. It could be in a program, it could be in a department, for example. It could be other examples as well. But for example, a group of teaching staff working together in a program. And when you work together like that, you tend to sort of form common, shared assumptions, values, ideas, and practices related to your other aspects as well. But here the focus is on teaching and learning. And Trowler has named this a teaching and learning regime. So that includes the different values, ideas that we have related to our teaching. So what I also found is that these teaching and learning regimes can also be barriers to change. I saw that in my study that they can also function as a barrier because they sort of have the purpose of protecting or preserving the environment within that regime. So I could see that they were sort of working on securing the boundaries from external influence that they were not sort of interested in getting into their program. So they were very protective. So to overcome these barriers, to achieve change, one idea, one suggestion is to have these initiatives, change initiatives, to align better with the teaching and learning regime. So they are recognized or at least recognizable within that regime in order to be accepted and implemented. And if they are not recognizable, if they sort of threaten the program identity, they may be resisted. So I have a concrete example related to one of the programs that I studied. And in that program, it was mentioned that sustainability was an example of something that was not entirely recognizable in that program. So talking to teaching staff from this program, some of them suggested that, yeah, maybe we should use a project-based approach and adapt the project's task related to sustainability to better match the teaching and learning regime in that program, to make them more recognizable, both for teaching staff and for students, because students can also be protective and sort of want to preserve their program identity. So, in this TransLeap project, to be able to understand this more in depth, to understand variations across our different universities, and to be able to respond to our research questions on opportunities and challenges for embracing transformative sustainability learning. We will explore local cultures across the educational programs that are included in our study. But that's not all we will do in the TransLeap project. So Shanu, can you tell us more about that part?
Yeah, thank you. I think based on what they all presented, now you can know we have shared our value in a group, and that is TSL. And in this project, abbreviation we call TransLeap. And it's based on we six sitting in front of a computer via Zoom, developed this proposal. We submitted in 2022 to VR, PT, we didn't get it, but hopefully we will get this time. We are going to submit again and maybe other grant resources. And if we don't get again, maybe we should provide switch number later on. So next. So what is TransLeap? The aim is, like Marie just mentioned, we want to explore how TSL can be embedded, embraced, and contribute to all our different profession-oriented higher education program. And next, and we have 4 research questions we want to ask. The first one is, because TSL is, like sustainable development, is very big, complex. So we need to, before we do action on teacher training at the higher education, different universities, we need to know, so what is TransLeap for us? What is the guiding principle we can develop or framework we can develop? Use that to analyzing. The second question is to analyzing our course information like syllabi or program information and so on. See what TSL or ESD are in our system today and what can we do change. And then third question is we will, based on the framework we develop, try to do action research to explore more about the challenges like what Mary talked about, and also the opportunities and find the solutions for the challenges. And the fourth part, since, as you know, we have 3 universities and also University of Tokyo, we want to conduct a comparative study to compare how TSL can be done, work well or not well among these 3 different programs and also different universities. So based on these 4 research questions, we could create 4 working packages. So basically, each working package is to provide find answers for each research question. So to be short, work package 4, we want to focus on what we have found in BP2 and BP3 to analyze our outcome in a transdisciplinary and transcultural context. So this is what we plan to do in our project. So, but before we get money, what should we start, Lena?
Thank you, Shunu. Yes. So before we have all the means to start the project for real, we have the aim of performing a series or arranging a series of seminars this year. So we want to go now from the ideas and thoughts to some action. And we have 3 seminars that we plan that are mainly for us to educate ourselves, but also with invited expertise or people that can give us input. We will start to understand better, deeper, and agree on how we define TSL as a principle, to know where we start. And then where in the higher education and how is TSL to be implemented. And we will use the Sterling literature as a starting point and model for this. So is TSL in higher education just an add-on, or can it actually be integrated and creating true transformation? This is something that we want to get into more. We also need to know what key competencies for sustainability that we need to acquire. The fourth seminar will be of the type an external seminar where we will invite maybe you or faculty members of all our universities, including Tokyo universities, and also others that are interested in this. And we will have that seminar as in the form of a dialogue seminar. You can change. And through this dialogue seminar, we aim at understanding better both where we are, because we think that we all fairly well know where we want to be. And this has been defined in goals by both global and local organizations. At KI, we have an Agenda 2030, for instance, that clearly state that sustainability for the future should be included in all education. But we will start by allowing these participants of the seminar to share experiences, find the problems. What are they? What are the obstacles? Why is this change not happening without a lot of ado? Why is it not just organically happening? But we will also look for the strengths and the good ideas. And with this collected knowledge, we will better understand what we fight, and we will find the good practice and start designing a new model for incorporation of TSL in higher education. That is our hope. And that will also be as a pilot study for the TransLeap project that we will start next year, right?
We hope so. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. And we have some 10 minutes for question, if we have any. So thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Maria Håkansson and I work with urban planning. So this correlates to what we do a lot as well. But I think, and especially as Marie talked about organizational culture and so on, but in our different organization, we also have quite different culture within. And when we talk about sustainability, we talk a lot about these kind of cross-disciplinary work and so on and so forth. So it's not just, we both need to strengthen each profession, but also learn on the skills to work with others. And then the boundaries we need to pass could be very difficult. Have you some ideas how to this kind of cross-sector collaborations, both within engineering, but also amongst you, so to say?
I start, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's. But you know about cultures, Marie. Yeah, but that's an interesting issue that you bring up. When we started focusing on professions-oriented education, it was because we are who we are, so we are anchored in that. But it's also this thinking that there are strong expectations on what these professions-oriented education should be, societal regulations and so on, which prevents change and which makes it more difficult. So we thought that is an opportunity, those difficulties, that there actually are these silos and so on. But then, yeah, regarding the research approach, for example, or?
Yeah, I mean, in my research, we found school teachers. After training, they went back to school. It's hard to implement because they have different culture within one school too. And some people found when really teachers, they try it out and see the effect on the students' performance and achievement and change, they like to change too. So it's more about we need to create time and space, like Stockholm Trio Corporation. We should have some joint courses, joint time, joint space, to really try it out and share. That's what VP3 we try to do, is action research. And I hope we can, after trying experience, we can create joint value. And yeah, that's my feedback.
So bringing together, our plan is to bring together teachers from all these different sectors and really co-create, sharing, trying to identify what are those barriers, what use could we have of each other, where can we not collaborate. So, Marie, did you have some additional perspectives on
Just
culture?
That I really agree with you that is an important part of it, to teach, I mean, from our perspective, engineers, but also the others, of course, to learn to cooperate across disciplines, definitely. I can just confirm that, and we'll try to look into different ways of doing that together. Yeah.
Yes, an important part of this study is comparing and contrasting. Of course, you can try to look in the mirror and ask, how do I do things as an educator? But sometimes it can be better to actually get a reflection from another teaching culture, whether it's engineering or education, or in a very different cultural context as in Japan. And so that's where we hope to find the seeds and the ideas that we can further work on.
Any further questions? Yep, I come.
Mats Lexell from Electrical Engineering. How do you plan to take into the student perspectives and the experience from students and so on?
Yeah.
I think in VP3 Action Research, we want to invite university teachers to join us. So every time we can design a task, then they can implement in their classroom or teaching. And next time we meet, they bring back students' feedback. And of course, we can also enter the classroom to do observation and also interview students every time, or in the long run, we can see how they develop at the end of the study. That's the thing we plan to do. Thank you.
So Arnold Peers, professor in Teknikvetenskapens lärande. So my question is really one of sense of urgency in these types of projects. What sort of timescales do you think we need to achieve change in? You could argue that the timescale that a project of this nature would normally involve is somewhere in the order of 10 years before the research results would enter the mainstream in academia. So, but perhaps the problem is more urgent than that. If we're going to reinvent and reimagine university education, perhaps we need to do something more dramatic in the shorter term. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because on the one hand, if we're trying to sort of push things into people that are not ready, we will probably have this resistance. I'm not going to change. This is not part of me. This is not what we do around here. So I think that could be a problem, trying to do this too fast. But of course, on the other hand, we really need to do something. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. But another thing that I'm thinking about is the action research approach that we plan to have. That we're doing things, we're not just researching, we're also doing things while we're researching them at the same time. So hopefully we can achieve change sooner than after, 10 years. So.
And I think Stockholm Trio, we all have higher education courses. like KTH just Anders present top-down, bottom-up is a very good approach. So I hope Stockholm and also KI, I think you also have some courses related. So we already can embed some ideas there to try out and have some colleagues who share the same value already to start and try things. So this is a short term, I think we can try to approach. And we have Clara here, the director of CUL from our university. So I hope she hears our need. Thank you.
And in the process, it's quite likely that we identify educators in the different programs actually doing this already, but they are by themselves. So it could be a byproduct of this research to kind of a network or community building for transformative learning.
Any other questions? We have time for one more. Okay. Any more comments from the group? Any concluding remarks?
It's fun to get started.
Yeah. And yeah, we have these seminars coming up, where the external seminars sometimes in late autumn, probably. And we will
get back about that.
Yeah, so please take contact with us. You have our contacts here. And also these earlier seminars, we are thinking about a slightly extended group there, if there are some who are already working with this and would like to join. Should I hand over the word to you to conclude this session and some instructions for the coming, or?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to just say, give them a warm applause. Okay, thank you. I apologize. I'm instructed to stand here in front of you for the camera. But so I would just say now we're going to our parallel sessions, and we have an exciting afternoon as well. And remember to come back here in the afternoon for the final end note from Arnold Pierce as well. So have a nice afternoon. Thank you. Thank you again.